RJ, this video is just for you. I know that I give you little bits and pieces of information and things that concern me about your health and about the things that you're doing and the choices you're making. So I want to shoot a video. I want to lay it all out. You can refer to this video whenever you want to. You'll have some good understandings of what I know about you. I know about your case. I know about what's going on with you. So as you move forward in the choices that you make, when you're at school or eventually when you move out, so on and so forth, you'll have this that you can refer back to. Okay, so I'm going to give you some basics of metabolism, and then we're going to talk about some of the things that I know that at least you have questions about or should have questions about. Maybe don't know that you should. so here's the thing. Okay, thyroid, your metabolism, that's your body's use of energy, and I know that weight's a big concern for you. So you have to keep that metabolic activity going. Your thyroid gland is what's primarily responsible for metabolism, okay? So the way it works is your hypothalamus, which is a part of your brain, picks up on the environment of your body. It picks up on your sleep-wake cycle. That's why getting enough sleep is important, and that's why sleeping at the right times are important. It picks up on your appetite. It picks up on hunger, sex hormones, different things like that. Sex hormones are not that important right now. But anyway, it picks up on all those things. So one of the things it does is it picks up on your thyroid hormone levels. So it'll release a hormone to your pituitary gland, which will release a hormone to your thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland then releases T4 and T3. T4 is the inactive thyroid hormone, and that's the most of what your thyroid makes. It's 93% of what your thyroid gland makes. T3 is the active form. So this T3 that gets made goes on and goes into the cells and gets used up. T4 has to be converted to T3. So it gets onto thyroid binding globulin, and it goes to the liver, to the gut, the kidneys, and the other tissues. And 80% of the conversion of T4 to T3 happens in the liver and the gut. So you got to make sure that your liver is working properly and your digestive tract is working properly. Now this brings me to something that's important. You remember when I ran those labs when you were younger, and they came back and you had some positive findings. One of the things that you had on those labs was called hypothyroidism. It means your thyroid gland was not working the way it should. Your TSH levels, let me get my marker, hold on. So your TSH levels were elevated, which means that your thyroid gland was not making enough T4 because your body was kind of trying to get it to make more and more and more, okay? The other component of what you had going on with that lab finding was you had what's called thyroid peroxidase antibodies. Now, when you combine this along with increased TSH, the diagnosis for that is Hashimoto's hypothyroiditis. Okay, it's a autoimmune condition where your body is making these antibodies that are attacking your thyroid gland. This is why I'm really, really stringent on you and concerned for you and push you to stay away from the artificial sweeteners, to stay away from the vaccinations, to stay away from, at least make a very educated decision on the vaccinations, to stay away from things that are going to challenge your immune system. Your immune system is already challenged. Your immune system is already overactive and it's already attacking parts of your body. Now we've gotten a lot of that calmed down. You lost a lot of weight. You've done a lot of good things. Some of the supplements that we've done, some of the dietary changes you've done, the way mama has you eating, so on and so forth. Those will affect these thyroid peroxidase antibodies. But you have to understand that you have that tendency to go towards autoimmunity. If you're filling your body up with Monster, which is full of fake sugar, that fake sugar tears up your thymus gland. Your thymus gland is part of your gland that makes your helper T cells, which is part of your immune system. It also affects your liver, it affects your kidneys, it affects your spleen, liver. Okay, it's part of your T4 to T3 conversion. Artificial sweeteners are going to destroy you. Okay, you cannot do it. And I know you want to. I know you don't think it's a big deal. You're young, you're invincible, but I'm telling you that your body has the potential to be so strong and so healthy, and you've got the discipline to be so strong and so healthy. But if you keep putting that kind of stuff in there, you're going to destroy it and you're going to move towards these autoimmune conditions. And as you get older, that thyroid gland will start to get destroyed. Your metabolism's going to go downhill. You're going to end up on medication and you're not going to do well. Okay, so I really need you to pay attention to that. I really need you to stay away from the artificial sweeteners. Okay? All right, so that's the autoimmunity. So we got to keep your liver healthy. We got to keep your gut healthy. A lot of times autoimmune issues like that can come from a leaky gut syndrome, which is from chronic inflammation. And that's what concerns me, like with your hands, because you have those responses to things. You get inflamed so easily. So we have to make sure that you're eating a diet that's balanced, so that you're not getting your sugar out of balance, because when your blood sugar goes out of balance, it inflames your body. Okay, and when that inflammation can also lead to challenges. So blood sugar is critical. That's why when you're eating, you need to eat the almonds, you need to eat your eggs, you need to have your fats or your proteins with your foods to keep that blood sugar stable, and you do a pretty good job of that. The other thing, I know that when the weight is a challenge, you tend to not want to eat, because that's what most people do. But here's the problem. When you have a metabolic activity, you have this activity going on, if you don't eat, what your body does is it takes your muscle, and you have fat around your muscle. When you don't eat, your body stores everything that it can as fat, because the fat is it's your insurance against a famine. It's your insurance, your body's mechanism to protect itself. So if you're eating excess carbohydrates, your grains, your Ezekiel bread, any of these carbohydrates that you like, if you eat too many of them without enough fats and proteins and that blood sugar spikes up, it stores as fat. Then you go through the phases where you don't eat because you're trying to starve yourself to lose weight, and you start losing weight, but you're not losing fat, you're losing muscle. So your muscle content starts to drop down because your body's holding on to that fat, because the fasting, the famine protection mechanism, the body doesn't want to use muscle for energy, it wants to save that, it wants to use fat for fuel if you get into a dangerous situation. So it stores fat until it has to start burning it. So what will happen is you start losing muscle mass. When you lose muscle mass, your need for metabolism goes down, because muscle is more metabolically active than fat is. So you're lowering your metabolic activity, and then whatever you do eat, the body burns as little of it as possible, because now you don't have the metabolic activity to cause that to burn off, and it stores it as fat. So you might be losing weight, but you're losing muscle mass and you're adding fat, and that's what your mom calls fat skinny. That's how you can end up fat skinny. So what you have to do, and what works with the ketogenic diet, is when you're eating, you have proteins, you have carbs, and you have fats. Make sure you get enough fat, make sure you get enough protein, and then you make that carbohydrate a little bit deficient. And then when you do that, the body kicks into burning fat as the primary fuel source, because there's not enough carbohydrate there, so it's not going to burn that for energy. It's going to switch over and burn fat for energy. So what will end up happening is you'll start burning that fat, and when you do that, you get ketones in the urine, and that's where you get the ketogenic diet. Okay, so that's why we keep going with that ketogenic diet. That's why we keep doing that approach, to make sure that you're in the fat burning mode. Now, when you combine that with the exercise that you're doing, the fact that you're getting enough protein and fat in your diet, and you're lifting weights and you're working on a treadmill, now your muscle mass is going to start increasing at the same time that your fat is being burned off. So your weight may not change that much. You may actually gain a little bit of weight, because you're changing that muscle mass. Muscle weighs more than fat, so you're changing that ratio. But you're increasing your muscle mass, decreasing your fat. By increasing that muscle mass, you're increasing your overall metabolism. Now, when I say increasing muscle mass, I don't mean getting all bulky. What I mean by that is you're just getting normal lean musculature. Like your mom has just that normal lean muscle, and that becomes metabolically active. So that's very helpful. So doing what you're doing with the exercise, doing what you're doing with the cardio, those are great things. And then just make sure you're getting that protein and that carbohydrate, and you're getting enough calories. Okay, just make sure you're getting enough calories so you don't go into that fasting mode. Even if you don't want to do ketogenic, that's absolutely fine, but just make sure you're getting enough protein and fat to stabilize that blood sugar, and that'll help you with that weight loss come off. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Okay, so that's that aspect of it. The caffeine. So caffeine is fine within limitations. As you know, it stimulates your brain, so on and so forth. So there are benefits to it, but it also stimulates your adrenal glands. Adrenals are have a big involvement in hormones and so on and so forth. So your adrenal glands are very active right now because of your age. If you're drinking a lot of caffeine, you're going to overtax these adrenal glands, and you're in the developmental phase. And if these guys get overtaxed and they collapse, and your cortisol levels and everything start to drop, you're going to have a whole other host of issues, because now you're not going to have that metabolic pathway to help you maintain normal metabolism. Okay, so caffeine, I'm not against you drinking coffee anymore, but I don't want you drinking more than a cup or two a day. I mean, that's pushing it with the 2 cups a day, but you want to keep that in moderation. It'll stimulate the adrenal glands, but it won't fatigue them. Okay. I would rather see you have a cup of coffee than a Monster, because the Monster is full of the fake sugars. It's full of all those negative aspects of it. The coffee, at least, is just the caffeine. And then what will end up happening is when you have that coffee, that's also a little bit of an appetite suppressor, so that'll help with that aspect of it. The Monster, as you know, is full of fake sugar, so you just can't do that to yourself because of all the things I've already talked about. Okay? The last thing that I want to talk to you about is we talked about sugar balancing, and that's where you eat. When you eat your meal, you're not just eating fruit, you're not just eating grains or things like that once they get in your system, they turn to sugar, because that'll cause inflammation and it'll cause a lot of different problems. You want to make sure you have a little bit of protein and a little bit of fat with them as well. Okay? Talked about the fasting mode, talked about the caffeine. Soy. So soy is kind of touted as a health food, especially with vegetarians. But one of the things that soy does is it's what's called an estrogen precursor. And what it does is it raises estrogen levels in the body. So if you eat it too much, you start having these estrogen dominance issues, which will tax your liver, which will decrease your metabolic conversion of T4 to T3. Soy also has some other issues in the body that can cause challenges, and especially when you're dealing with a potentially autoimmune issue like you have dealt with in the past. And I say potentially because right now I think it's under control, but you have that potential, so you have to act in a very healthy way to make sure you keep that strength there. But with that soy, what you want to do with that is you want to rotate it. You don't want to eat it any more than maybe once every 3 or 4 days, because if you eat too much of it, you're going to get that estrogen hormone precursor, and it's going to cause issues for you. I know being a vegetarian, it's a good source of protein, and it is a good source of protein, but use your eggs, use your seafood, use your nuts, use other sources of protein. Don't rely strictly on the soy. Try not to eat that more than every 3 or 4 days and keep that rotated. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I got a ton more to tell you, but I think these are the primary issues for you right now. So I just want you to have this, review it. Any questions that you have, ask me, okay? I'm not going to lecture you, I'm just giving you the information. The reason I think this is important is because you're getting to the point where you're making your own decisions. I know you're drinking diet root beer. I need you to understand this. I know that you're choosing soy. I need you to understand how to do it the right way. I know you're choosing these Monster drinks. I need you to understand what you're doing to yourself. I need you to understand these things, and I want to give it to you in video format so you can review it and you can hear it and you can learn it when you're open. Because I think you make very, very wise decisions when they're your own decisions. So learn this, research it, learn it, and then make your decisions. But just please make them educated decisions. Don't just go based on something you read on a fad diet, because that will tear your body up. And long term, a lot of patients, I see them in my office. I see the people that were where you are, and now they're 30, 40 years old, and they're extremely overweight. They are not making good health choices. They're doing all these fad things that you're doing, and they're making wrong choices. And I have to re-educate them at that point. And I'd rather have you do it now while you're young, learn it and be solid, so that when you are out on your own, you're making all these solid decisions and you're just flying through life and you're just owning it. Okay? So please ask me if you have any questions. I love you. Okay, the second part about this that you have to make sure that you understand. Hold on. Okay, RJ, the second part about this that you have to understand is the chiropractic part, and why I'm always telling you need to get adjusted. So you've got your brain, and your brain controls and coordinates the function of every cell in your body. Okay, that's the basic premise of the brain, is it does all that work. Now, it sends a signal to your body for your body to carry out function. When I'm adjusting you, what I'm doing is there are parts in your spine that are out of place. And when they go out of place, they put a pressure on that nerve. That's called a subluxation. And what that does is that will interfere with that signal getting from your brain to your body. So if it's in your upper neck, it's going to give you headaches. If it's down in the mid-neck, it's going to affect your thyroid. If it's down in the mid-back to lower back, it's going to affect your stomach or your digestion. So there are different parts of the body that are affected by different vertebrae in your spine. So when you have these joints that are out of place, and I go and I adjust them, that clears this up so the brain can get the signal from the body to from the brain to the body for the body to carry out function. Now, you feel okay right now, and the reason you do is because you're young, so you have these subluxations in there that we want to get out, but you don't worry about them because you're not having symptoms. But what happens is over time, even though you're not feeling the symptoms, you start having malfunction. So there are certain things that your body's not doing the way it should be, and that's because of this nervous pressure. We've already talked about the nutritional aspect, but now we're talking about the nervous system. So with this interference, your brain is not being able to get the command to the body for the body to carry out its normal function. So you're having malfunction. You don't know where those are happening. You don't know what's going on with that. It could be your thyroid, it could be your gut, it could be your heart, it could be hormones, it could be muscles that you really don't know. It's definitely musculature when you get those headaches, okay? So you're not carrying out that function right now. When it continues on long enough, you're going to cross the pain threshold and you're going to start having symptoms. Okay, so my goal is to get you better and get you functioning before this happens. So the whole purpose of all this is we want you eating right, we want you exercising, and we want you clearing your spine so that your body can function optimally. When it functions optimally, then you have optimal health. So I need you to keep that in mind. Now, I don't mind adjusting you with the activator. I don't mind doing that at all. The manual adjustments, we get a little more movement, but I can do it with the activator. But you're getting at the age that we need to do this on a regular basis, like once or twice a week for a little while to get you into a good place. Once we do that, you're going to feel tremendously different. You don't recognize where you're not functioning right now. But when we get you feeling better, then you'll be like, oh my goodness, that's what was going on with that. So I need you to be open to this. I'm not going to approach you about this. I'm not going to make you feel uncomfortable, but you need to be open to it and let me know when you're ready for this, okay? All right, so that's the concept behind the chiropractic. We've already talked about the nutrition, so let's get you healthy. All right, I love you.